Right now, I know we have Envision 2045, which I may not be around for 2045, so I'm concerned about what's happening right now. It's a lot going on in our city and other cities that I've been watching. Absolutely. So I'm going to bring up two really, are the kids still in here? They're going? Two badass women. Trustee Kiana Belcher and Trustee Brittney Norwood from the village of Dolton. But let me tell you, these two women exposed why I have such respect for you, and I'm so happy I can tell this to you to your face. I have so much respect for you because I know at the beginning, I was looking at a lot of the videos, the residents didn't believe you. They didn't believe what was going on with the money, the mishandling of the money. Money was missing. They wouldn't believe you, and you all just stayed on it, and you did not give up. And I have nothing but respect for you. And the truth is coming to light today. So I applaud you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
And if anybody is following, if you start from when we started in 2021 to now, there's indictments, there's federal subpoenas, there's court cases every other week. As a Black woman, I feel like we should uplift each other. We should want to support each other. But at some point, you can't make this about race. You have to make it about your community, your character, what you took an oath for. And I took an oath. I'm not going to jail. I ain't stolen no money. I ain't coming with no money. I'm not doing that's not. And I told her, like, I ain't signed up for this. I didn't. That's not what I signed up for. I signed up to be a voice for the 20,000 people of Dolton.
And you were like really reaching out for the help. So how did the feds come to get involved?
Well, let me first start by saying I told them a while back, nobody's coming to save us, right? So at 2023, we're like, it's 2.5 years later, nothing is happening, and it's not happening fast enough because we're looking at the accounts and we see that we're millions and millions of dollars, and we're just going further into the hole. So that was a scary part. And then one day, we had this bright idea that maybe we should, especially with the residents not believing us, the main thing was for us was to prove it to the residents, because we spent about an entire year not receiving any financial report. So we weren't receiving credit card bills, statements. We weren't receiving financial statements from the bank. And we were like, okay, where are we? Where do we stand? Thanks to this mathematician here and our senior trustee, Jason House, they have a background in finance. So they were stating, hey, this is not good. They're like, according to our calculation, we're like really negative. So we knew that, but we couldn't tell the residents, well, according to their calculation, we're like this negative, right? So we had to find a way for us to get the information and then share with the residents so they would at least have an idea of what's going on and what this fight is all about. So when we received the right idea to bring in Lori Lightfoot, just to do the investigation part for us.
The Attorney General's office failed us. State's Attorney's office failed us. The Illinois State Police failed us. Cook County Sheriff's failed us. And I say that, and they always say, you don't supposed to blame people, but we started this in 2021. What do you have a public corruption department for if you sending them all this stuff that's saying this is going on and nobody looks into it? They always say that the feds take a long time, which we understand that. But I truly believe if she hadn't became the supervisor, they would have passed Dolton up. when she started spending the money of of 17 communities that didn't look like us,
Oh, that made the difference.
that made a difference. And it made a difference. Because it wasn't about Dolton. It was about the $32 million she was spending in the township.
Where was that money going? Because she just got an eviction notice, am I correct?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So
I
where is that money
have
going?
no idea. I don't work for the township, so it's two different entities. So they have their own sets of problems over there, but we're affected by it. But the misspending of, misappropriation and misspending of Dolton's money is parties, cars, trips, credit cards you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner on. Just like it's their personal card. It's our tax. I heard you when you first started talking about the taxes. I live in Dolton. I pay $9,000 a year. Like even when I pay off my house, I'm still about to pay almost $600 a month just in my escrow. So I'll never stop paying, and it's steady going up, steady going up. But at some point, this deficit that has occurred, we're gonna have to raise the taxes to try to supplement all this money that's been.
I told you I can talk to them all night. Like, I got a gazillion questions.
No, 100%. And first, I want to start off by thank you for the work that you've done for this community. It's not easy and to bring to light something like this, and like you said, you were catching flack from all sides, right? Whether that was directly from the mayor's office or that was from people who thought that the mayor was doing good work, right? And it can make you feel like, okay, is what I'm doing really right, or am I, is this all in my head? Is this just something that's not as big as it really is? But you continue to do that work and get to where you are. Here in Evanston, our form of government is a little bit different, where city council members, the equivalent of aldermen, are very part-time based. I mean, they make like $17,000 a year, so it's not a full-time job. They don't have full-time staff. And what I often see here is that when there are issues in the community, especially when it comes to financial ones, is that it's a lot of people in our community bringing that to the attention of elected officials and not the other way around. It's often that there are elected officials that don't understand, okay, we're actually spending how much and why are we spending this much money? And then the questions start to get asked because there was a group of individuals that may have been able to do a deeper dive, maybe have that financial background, right, and they do that deeper dive. What would you say to people who do that work, that are just normal, everyday people that care about their community? How do you approach a situation where, you believe that there's financial wrongdoing going on, or that financially we're not spending and allocating what we need to be doing, and we're not doing it in an appropriate manner? How should people go about bringing that to the attention of either their elected officials or to external, partners to try to get something resolved?
So first, let me say this. It's a part-time job, but she has made this a full-time job. So we can't say we're only allocating 4 hours, because this is something that we truly believe is not a fight for us, but it's a fight for a lot of communities that have or probably going through it and just don't understand, well, I never looked at it that way, or how to. So if anybody knows that as an elected official and in government, freedom of information is your friend. Y'all can find out everything about us. Y'all gonna know how much we make, what's our insurance, what contractor, freedom of information.
Public record.
Huh?
Public record.
Yeah, it's public information. So you get the basics of starting there. because they can't deny you that information. And it could be something as far as you seen me at a venue somewhere, and I may have been with a contractor or anything. It's up to somebody to say, can I FOIA Trustee Belcher phone records? Or, they ask for those type of things. Or do you guys have a credit card? And they go looking to see. Our trustees don't utilize credit cards. We hope that it would be an RFP bidding cycle, but of course, we haven't utilized that, or she doesn't utilize that. But to start anywhere, and it does not have to be of having a financial background, is if you see anything that you feel is concerning to you or you feel uncomfortable with, because you're a taxpayer. So if you feel uncomfortable with it, you have the right to ask about it.
So that was so good that I forgot the question.
So for every day, you're just a constituent, you're just a resident, and you feel like there's this financial wrongdoing going on. What are the tools? How do you best approach either your elected officials or external partners to really get to the bottom of it and then actually start to address the situation? Because everyday people aren't in even positions of power, so they can't say, okay, I'm going to try to call up, Lori Lightfoot, or, do X, Y, and Z. A lot of people don't have that ability. So what would be, some of your tips?
So the FOIA, as she said, is definitely like the number one. But I noticed that a lot of our residents, they come and they speak out at public comment. So a lot of, that's a time where most people could address their concerns. Some formats, the council actually have to answer at the moment that the question is asked. So they could use that platform, just kind of draw attention to it and say, hey, what is this about? What we did was, for our village, we used to answer the questions during public comment. But then when this administration took over, she made it so that you have to kind of send an email and kind of just wait on your answer.
I find that interesting because here in Evanston especially, we have public comment, and it's been utilized as a mechanism to, and it's usually one-way conversation, and it hasn't really been this back and forth. But I'd say that the current, the current mayor has kind of spoken out against public comment at times and trying to, use different ways to limit it or minimize the amount of people that can, speak, or how long you can speak for. How do you feel about the idea of, public comment being shortened, or, just not allowing or not giving that time for people to voice their concerns?
Well, in our arena, things are different because our mayor kind of make her own rules at times. No, seriously, the time period has always been about 3 minutes. And then one day we're at a meeting and she's like, okay, it's time for public comments. By the way, you only get 2 minutes. And we're all like, the trustees were looking at each other. We're like, did you all sign off on this change? I'm looking like, who signed off on this change? But she don't need you to sign off on anything in our town. In most places, you would think that I would say you should bring the change to the public, because ultimately it is their time. And if they have taken the time to leave work and come down and spend all these hours of listening to us, they should at least be able to express themselves, and we should at least be able to answer the questions.
What would you say are some red flags that other municipalities should take note of or don't ignore, to let them know something's funny going on with the money, they're not being transparent with the money? Like what would be those red flags that we need to pay attention to, other cities and villages?
Anybody that's talking fast. I would think first off, when the board is being isolated from decision making, being isolated from getting financial information, when you get an abundance of stuff just happening so quick, that is distracting you from what's really happening. And I say abundance of stuff of happening quick, as we stated earlier, like, oh, we're gonna have roofs and windows, then we're gonna get the alleys paved, and
Right.
we got the sidewalks. All of this stuff is happening within a matter of 1 or 2 meetings, because money is moving very quickly. You can't really catch up with it because the average contractor doesn't send their invoice for probably a month after they completed it. So by that time, you done already started something else, so now you're keeping up. So when stuff start moving very fast, and I don't know how, if every municipality or city has like a committee of a whole and a vote meeting, because technically we should have a committee of a whole and a vote meeting, which the first meeting is the voting meeting. The second meeting of the month is we're discussing everything that should go on that voting meeting. When she took out the second meeting. So now when you come, you're not discussing anything, it's just on there. So they just want you to vote on it without you doing the proper research, without the community being involved. When you start seeing those type of things, you know it's something else that's going on behind the scenes that's not working in the benefit of the community, but working in the benefit of somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very similar in Evanston. It's utilized a lot as special orders of business, right? And that'll be, it's up for introduction, and then we're voting on it, we're pushing it forward, and then we're moving on. And I find when you're talking about talking fast and moving fast, a prime example of that to me would be Northwestern's community benefits agreement that they put together with the city of Evanston. Is that, for a long time they were planning on building the stadium. There was no interest whatsoever in creating a community benefits agreement. Matter of fact, they said that they didn't want to at all. And then there was this massive push by many people in the community in saying that, well, if you're at least gonna sell our souls, we need to get something out of it, right? And it was outlining exactly what Northwestern was going to contribute. And so they put this CBA forward, and they were very much so like, okay, CBA's here, it's Friday, we're voting on this on Monday. And, people look at this thing and are like, okay, well, I need to now read through this entire CBA and see if it actually makes sense. And I mean, I would see people come to meetings where I had never seen them before, and they're reading through this and they're like, I'm a lawyer and this doesn't make any sense. This language completely makes it so that if, the city of Evanston starts to change some of the ordinances around, any tourism taxes, that Northwestern, this entire agreement is null, or they don't have to give this portion of the agreement. And it was the work that some of those people did in that very short amount of time that managed to at least get some of the, major red flag items out of the CBA, but it ultimately resulted in a CBA that many people in the city thought was still lacking. So I'm really glad that you all brought that up about this idea of like moving fast and understanding that, when it comes to the Northwestern Stadium project, like, I'm sorry, if you took another 2 weeks, the stadium would still be in the same stage that it is right now. It's not going anywhere. And ultimately, you may end up burdening future city councils or future trustee members and the people of Dolton or the people of Evanston in the future by not actually taking the time, effort, and energy to kind of plan this stuff out, but saying like, okay, it's beneficial to do something like this now and not actually take the time.
That's absolutely true. And we had a lot of residents, even with the tree trimming issue, people were like, well, we've been asking for these trees to be trimmed for 20 years, and the tree is dead, and she come in and she cutting all the trees, and we're like, yeah, but we set a budget in the budget how much we were gonna spend. And one contractor, he was like, yeah, well, I seen the mayor, she was riding down the street, she hopped out and was like, give me an estimate to cut the whole city. I was like, wait a minute, what's happening? He was like, she's the mayor. Okay, but there's a process. And he come back and said, I told her it was gonna be $2.8 million. What? He was like, I started cutting the trees. Do you have a contract, sir? No, she the mayor. No, it don't work like that. No, what's going on? So then you start seeing 4 and 5 different contractors, because now you got to move fast because they cutting, and you know you done went over the budget here, so now I got to get somebody else, and they gonna cut over here, and you know you done went over here, and now I got to get somebody else. So everything is moving. So you get the warrant list of all these bills. You have $700,000 worth of tree cutting in 1 month. Your budget is only $350,000 for the year. And it's just like, when people see stuff being done, they don't think about behind and how it's gonna affect them in the long run. They see instant gratification. But your instant gratification could be a lifelong of taxes, a lifelong of increases, a lifelong of, okay, now we're gonna have to take some services from somewhere else because this budget is over. We gotta take some services from this because this budget's over. We might have to raise the water bills because this. So, of course, people want to see stuff done. And they want services. But you have to be very mindful of, why do you think all these other mayors prior to her only cut down, okay, we're going to cut this tree, we're going to cut this side 1 year, we're going to cut this side. They did that for a reason, because they worked with the money that they had. And in her mind, it's just, okay, we'll figure it out once it's done. I don't know.
Yeah, when things move fast, and I notice when things come up before watching you all's meeting and watching other meetings, and the aldermen or the trustees are like, you didn't give us enough time to think about why we got to vote on it right now. So whenever things are rushed, it ends up a mess eventually. A mess. But then how do you stop it? How do you stop it?
Don't vote on it. Table it. Put it to committee of the whole. Make them wait. If they waited all this time, you make them keep waiting. You have to, your job is to protect 20,000 people, not to protect 1 or 2 people that's getting something else. So whatever it is, if it's not water leaking out a tower in the back where it's called, it's not an emergency. And everybody feels like they get in these positions and they say, oh, we got to do it right now. It got to be done right now. But these things been years and years and years and they haven't been done. So why is it so important now? It's because somebody feels like, if I could push it through right now on the back end, they're going to give me a campaign donation. They're going to give me something right now. And that's what it is. It's not being a public servant. It's being self-serving. It's for your instant gratification. It's not for the community's gratification. So you just got to be mindful of that. And then sometimes, now there are issues that we have where we have to put it on there, but it's to stop her from spending. We got to do it right now because she gonna do this. We got to do it right now because if we don't close this account, she gonna take all the money out that account. I mean, it's bad, but our situation is very unique.
Now I know, you all have the committees. You're in real estate, so are you on the housing committee? Are you on the budget finance committee?
No, I'm not. You would think that is lined out that way.
I noticed that. I was like, now why aren't they on these committees?
Well, I told you once before, she kind of make her own rules. So originally when we talk about our structure, right, how board is designed and how we all have intricate roles. So with Trustee Belcher and Trustee House, with them having that finance background, it just made sense. So we're like, okay, they're over finance. I was originally over housing, and we had these roles. We voted on them, right, legally, but we come into a meeting one day, and we all found out at the same time. She's like, yeah, no one is having committees, by the way. We're going to just reassign them. And we're like, did we vote on that? And, because we have, that's one of those things where we have so many pressing issues that we're like, okay, we're just going to allow you to have this one, right? Because us trying to watch the money is more important. So we found ourselves doing a lot of prioritizing and that's the tricky part, just trying to explain to the residents the reasoning behind the decisions that we make, because that's the hardest part. Long as they understand, I feel as if when I'm making the right decision, that's all that matters to me, as long as I can explain it to them.
Now it seems like you all are getting a lot of support from the community, because now they're seeing everything in black and white, what's actually been happening, but like, is it too late?
So-
That's a big fear.
So, out
Too late.
of all of this, I can say that our community has come together. They come to board meetings, they come to community activities. That is the positive part of it. It's gonna take us a long time to get out of this financial deficit that we're in.
So what's next for you all in this journey?
Election day, 2020, February 25th, 2025. Vote House.
Clean house.
Clean House, 2025. At this point, we're at the end of, making sure the residents know what's going on, keeping them informed, and making sure they get out and vote. I'm sure, like all other communities, voter turnout is not what it should be. But you gotta educate people. You spend more time educating and knocking doors than actually saying the closed vote for me. You spend more time saying, are you aware of what's going on? These type of things. So our problem right now is just making sure that people come out to vote. That's the only way we'll be able to stop this, is beating her at the polls.
Did anyone have any questions out there? Mary?
Hi, thank you so much for the work you do. We have some very many similar issues that you do, but I'm so puzzled that there's no financial responsibility that would get her thrown in jail for not producing, or your city finance department for not producing financial reports. Like, isn't there some state law?
There is, and I'm sure she'll get it. I guess it just takes time. It takes time, and that's the sad part, that when these things are happening, they want to make sure they can get every detail of what went wrong or what happened. I don't even know if you know that when the Illinois State Comptroller sent us something about a month and a half ago, that we haven't had audits since she's been in office. So all these so-called grants that she claimed she was getting, she couldn't get them because we hadn't had audits. So it sounds good to be like, oh, I got this $6 million grant. Oh, I got this $1 billion grant. When of course it may be allocated, but you're never gonna get it if you don't open the books to receive it. So that is something, we're now in the process of a forced audit where the comptroller's office has got assigned the agency that will audit us, but the opinions probably wouldn't be very favorable from the auditors.
Just going back to, your work trying to contact the AG, and I know here in town, like when we've had problems with FOIAs and getting stuff released, we go to the AG and, eventually they do their opinion and, say, City of Evanston, you've got to release it, or no, they're in their rights or whatever. But what could change up the chain so that you all, people who are working in government, feel like they've got their back, somebody's got their back and can follow up on this kind of thing? Like, the state AG, what needs to happen there so that, what do you all see in that as far as what could be shifted?
So, what I would say is that we have a lot of ordinances that's in place. When you just have somebody that just don't follow them, unless you just pick them up and hold them by their head, and you really can't force a grown person to do anything. When you say the attorney generals, and that's why I said I call them out, because they're not being a disservice to the community and what they're there for. And you can we probably have over 1,000 cases at the Attorney General's office. And none of them are being held. And you can call there and they be like, yeah, well, they didn't send the information, so you guys will probably get a lawsuit. We're gonna have lawsuits where now we're just trying to settle them or trying to get them because the Attorney General's office. So at what point do we hold the Attorney General's office to say, because if Kwame was on the ballot in November, I would knock on every door to make sure he didn't get in again.
I know that's right.
Because you have failed our community, but you want our vote.
Yeah.
Right.
Because you have a public interrogation. And even when sometimes when we started back in 2022, they was like, well, other agencies are handling it. Even if you can't tell us the FBI is involved, there has to be some guideline. Even if you were to find us, say something to show that you did something.
Right.
That's not happening.
What I do find interesting with that too is that it's not like you all are everyday people too. Like if I'm calling the AG's office and then I'm like, hey, what's the status of an investigation? And they're like, okay, you're just a random resident, we're not gonna give you that information. You all are elected officials, and it's your job to know what the status of this is, because that ultimately, if I say, okay, this investigation is gonna wrap up in probably 3-4 months, I know that I have to batten down the hatches for 3-4 months until she can get locked up in jail. And until then, I gotta do what I've gotta do. But the fact that you're elected officials in that city and you can't get any type of answers, I mean, to me, that's just like, this is intergovernmental relations, is that, we have to work together with multiple different agencies to get stuff done. That's just how it works. So that, to me, that's incredibly alarming that, one office wouldn't communicate to another elected official.
Even the judicial system, though, they don't want to get involved. They're like, it's politics. It's politics. No, y'all work that out. How do you work out something where someone is tearing your whole community up?
And we tried everything. We tried sit downs, over dinner. We went to church together. No, we have. But sometimes people ask, like, to what extent they're like, and it's funny because there are times when I look back and I'm like, I tell her, I said, we've come a long way, because there was a time when we she came in with a team and I was new. So I was like, hey, when the mayor would say, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to do that, the other trustee and I were like, yes, because we didn't come in on the ticket, so we hadn't had any dealings with her. So we were like, yes. And we would look at the other trustees that ran with her, and they were just looking at us a certain way, and we didn't know what was going on. We were like, So they never said anything bad. They kind of like let us form our own opinion. But then afterwards, I said, well, you could have gave us a heads up. So I used to tell them in the beginning, like when things started looking different, everyone had a decision to make. And with them already being together, I was kind of like an outcast, myself and then the other former trustee, Steve. It was us two, and it was those three, but we were kind of trying to figure out what exactly was taking place. So when they were, at one point, we were like, okay, we have to make some decisions because she's not listening. I told them, I said, you know what, guys, you all are just not approaching her the right way. I said, let me go with, I said, just got to be a little nicer. I was like, I did this work. And then afterwards, I was like, oh, okay, I have to sit down. I was like, okay, well, maybe, all right, we're going to have to take another route here. There's no compromising with this one. So that's when we figured it out.
Yes, it's like hope for a lot of
is.
municipalities who are going through similar things with decisions being made, too fast rush decisions, too much money being spent on things that don't make any sense. Just a lot of cities are going through that, and they feel like they're boxing a mountain, you know, the campaign donations and all of a sudden these weird votes happening because now you're a pet to your donor. You know, it's a lot. It's a lot. And so we're looking to you because, you know, we have I would say we have two really strong council people on our council who kind of remind me of you two. They're white, but they remind me of you two. And they don't give up. They don't give up. They don't give up. And I love it. We're looking at you because you did not give up no matter what. Y'all have not gave up. Whereas usually people just be like, let them go ahead and have it.
That's how it's a million times that you feel like, you know something, she just has a magic box somewhere that every time they just giving her a pass. Yes. But you can't give up. You can't give up because you know you're doing what's right. So you can't give up.
Now, given the amount of information that you've shared with us, how do you think the outcome is going to be with your constituents in Dolton and the county?
I think their level of expectation is going to be very high after this election because they're going to expect anybody that sits on that dais or sits to represent them to do and go above and beyond because they've seen it can be done. So I believe that their expectations for the community would definitely soar higher.
If, since we have the audience, because I know that a lot of people, everyone always say, what could we do? How could we help? For Dolton residents, they can vote February 25th. The date is so tricky. I always, February 25th, 2025, right? And then for anyone else watching, elections are expensive. And the hardest part for us is trying to save the village and campaign because we need enough money to get the word out, right? People have no idea how expensive campaigns are. So besides the residents voting, we're going to need as much money as possible to get the message out. So if we do have a website, it's votehouse2025.info for anyone that would like to help, and then also follow our Dolton Trustees page just to spend time with us. You know, we become one big family. I always tell them, like, at this point, this is for the whole America, right? We're everyone's trustees at this point. Right. So follow us on YouTube at Dolton Trustees or our Facebook page at Dolton Trustees, and again, our website. Please go and donate. We say 25 cents at this point will work, right? Enough people giving out 25 cents will eventually add up. So again, it's Vote House, I wrote it down, 2025.info. Thank you all so much for having us.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Absolutely.
Have a nice day. Thank you.